Chapter 1. Here we go again. They say the world will end not with a bang, but with a whimper. Unfortunately for him, his life ended with a bang. Meteorites shattered against the earth in a catastrophic ballet of destruction, and countless explosions tore through the sky as if the heavens themselves were collapsing. In this cinematic chaos, his life came to an end. Did you believe that? Nah. He was simply struck by lightning while crossing the street, an ironic twist of fate that led to a truck swerving uncontrollably and ending his life sooner than expected. Bit of a bummer if you ask him. But who could have predicted that a random stray bolt of lightning would lead him to this moment? Here he was standing before a god. The god appeared a bit worn out, but he still managed to clear his throat before speaking. Welcome to Limbo. We're here on official business. Or not if you don't care. Honestly, I don't get why they make me do this useless crap, the god grumbled, thumbing through some paperwork. I swear I better get a promotion after this. Satoru Mikami, right? He asked without looking up. He hesitated, then nodded. That wasn't his name, yet it rang a peculiar bell in his mind. And when he had almost shook his head, he felt a twist of discomfort in his gut, as if saying no would lead to his death. Great, okay, let's see here. Predator. Great sage. Yup, everything appears to be in order. I don't know why you appeared here, instead of just being reborn immediately. The god seemed to reassure himself, discarding a piece of paper carelessly. His eyes widened with surprise at the familiar names of the skills. But before he could delve into those thoughts, he was abruptly interrupted. Next, the god barked, yanking on a lever with a nonchalant flick of his wrist. The world around him spiraled into darkness, the sudden shift marking the beginning of an unexpected new chapter. As consciousness seeped back, everything was shrouded in a dense fog. He saw nothing, heard nothing. A chilling void enveloped his senses, leaving him adrift in his thoughts. Wait a minute, what did that guy say again? He wondered, struggling to sift through the haze of his memory. Great sage, are you there? He attempted to call out, though no sound escaped his lips. Only thoughts echoed in the void. Silence was his only response, stretching on until it was nearly unbearable. He posed the question once more, clinging to the hope of an answer. After what felt like an eternity, a response finally pierced the quiet. Received. Skilled great sage is present. A crisp, robotic female voice resonated within his mind. Neato, he mused, a spark of curiosity igniting his thoughts. Sage, can you use the magicules in the air to craft something like magic sense? I'm a bit blind over here. Received. Starting process. Analyzing. Analysis complete. Extra skill magic sense has been generated. Do you wish to activate the skill? Oui. He responded mentally. The moment he agreed, his world transformed dramatically. A torrent of information flooded his senses, so vivid and intense it was as if he'd been blind his entire past life. He could perceive everything. The small details of the rocks, the eerie aura enveloping the cave, and even a reflection of himself, a small, light blue blob, featureless yet oddly endearing. Kind of cute, he thought, the simplicity of his new form strangely appealing, reminding him of something a child might lovingly squeeze. The initial sensory overload was staggering. He could process it all, from the minute textures of the cave walls to the peculiar, shimmering auras that danced through the air. His mind buzzed, nearly overwhelmed, until the great sage intervened once more. Adjusting intensity. Calibration complete. The burden of the skill will now be shared with the skill great sage. Calibration will continue as you become accustomed to your senses. As the voice announced the adjustments, the vivid colors dimmed to a more manageable intensity. His perception, though still vastly superior to his previous human senses, settled into a new, astonishing form. As he navigated his new life as a slime, he mused to the great sage. So, Sage, I guess it's just you and me for now. How did he do it again in the original? Grab herbs and steal while looking for the big bad dragon. Sage, could you show me the optimal path to gather resources while heading towards the largest source of magicules? Received. Beginning navigation. Humming to himself in his head, we are off on a secret mission. we're gonna go kill the king." He maneuvered adeptly from one patch of hypocrite grass to the next deposit of magisteel. Gradually, he grew accustomed to his new form. Although being a sentient blob was bizarre, it oddly felt right. There were definitely some weird perks to being a slime. While collecting resources in the vast cave, he thought about his future outside. Being a slime had its upsides, but also downsides, like potentially being attacked on sight by most of the world. Honestly, having only watched the first 2 seasons of the anime, his knowledge was a bit sketchy. He knew some spoilers, but that was hardly enough to plan an entire life. "Yo, Sage, check out my memories. What do you think about that whole kingdom-building thing?" Analyzing. Analysis complete. Creating the Tempest Empire would be the best path to gain influence and strength. However, there are many other paths. Analyzing probable paths. Analysis complete. Options include infiltrating small villages and consuming the people and monsters there to increase our strength through predation. Adapting our path from predator to parasite and taking over the lives of influential figures worldwide. Or engaging in mass genocide to become a true demon lord. Yo, Sage, chill. He wasn't about to become public enemy #1. That seemed like a surefire way to get knocked off by a true dragon or a demon lord. I mean, who wouldn't want to slap a psychopathic slime that could only cause more problems as it got stronger? He was sure Sage had some way of making plans that were not as stupid or dangerous as they sounded, but he wanted to avoid the whole murder hobo deal for now. Error. The skill Great Sage does not contain a temperature. The monotone voice resounded after a few moments. "Don't worry about it, Sage. You're good. But let's try to keep things less murder hobo in the future, even if it isn't as optimal." Acknowledged. Continuing their journey through the cavernous depths, they soon came across a sight that stopped them in their tracks. The gigantic dragon Veldora lying down within a shimmering magical prison. The beast appeared the embodiment of draconic boredom, barely mustering the energy to glance at the new arrival before dismissively shutting its eyes after seeing it was just a slime. Undeterred, the slime used his gelatinous body to gently knock on the magical barrier. "Can you hear me, little one?" Veldora's voice boomed directly in his mind. Mentally clearing his throat, he responded with a mental friendly smile. "Howdy, my good fellow. Fancy seeing you here. You look like you could use a buddy, friend, pal, brother, amigo." To his surprise, Veldora's eyes snapped open, a mix of shock and amusement playing across his face before he burst into roaring laughter. "Ah! Ah-ha-ha! Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha!" His laughter echoed through the cave, filling the space with a warmth uncharacteristic of the cold, damp rocks surrounding them. As it subsided, Veldora leaned closer, his curiosity piqued. "How fascinating. You appear to be far too aware to be a normal slime." "Yeah, bud. I ain't your regular monster. How about you? Must be boring getting trapped in that thing, right?" His casual tone seemed to spark another round of laughter from Veldora. "Do you have a name, little one?" "I am Veldora, the storm dragon." The slime wiggled side to side since he couldn't shake his head. "No, siree, I am a brand spanking new baby slime. Though I used to be a human." A flicker of surprise crossed Veldora's face before he nodded in understanding. "I see, so that's how it is. A transmigrator. Eh? You appear to be quite calm for someone who just woke up in such a different body," he mused with a hint of amusement, his voice resonating through the vast cave. "Yeah, well, it is what it is. Though to be honest, it's probably all thanks to one of my skills. I would honestly be freaking out right now if I didn't have my skill," the slime mused in his head. Veldora nodded thoughtfully. "I suppose that is to be expected, though I am surprised you were not scared by my presence. I haven't seen any creatures in such a long time that I was beginning to go crazy in here. The magicules in my body are enough to scare all of them away. What can I say? I had to come and check out my dad. Your magicules made me, no?" he joked, and if he could smile, he would have. The dragon burst out laughing once again, before shaking his head in amusement. "Nah, don't worry, you don't need to explain. I already know the gist of it." Realizing it would be useless to withhold anything, since Veldora would eventually be able to see his own memories after he ate him, the slime decided transparency was the best policy. Besides, from what he had seen in the show, the storm dragon seemed somewhat of a sad person. Years of solitude had made him so desperate for company that he warmed quickly to the first person he could speak to. So, since they were destined to be allies, why maintain secrets that could later strain their friendship? Here, let me tell you the story of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Nah, but for real. Here's my story, he began, his tone shifting to one of casual sincerity. As the slime narrated his tale, Veldora's eyes shimmered with curiosity and amusement, theories and thoughts flitting across his mind. Once the story concluded, the dragon's face broke into a smile tinged with fascination. So yeah, now I am Rimuru Tempest. Or well, I will be. How about it, bud? Want to give your old pal a name? The slime asked, his tone playful yet expectant. Veldora's laughter echoed through the cave, a sound full of genuine joy. Sure, old pal. I have to say, never in my entire history of existence have I found someone as interesting as you. There are those who travel time, but for my existence to be a story in your world, I want to see what you will do with the fate you have stolen. Veldora lowered his head to meet the slime's gaze, a gesture of equality and respect. Perhaps fate brought us together, my new friend, Rimuru Tempest. From now on, my name will also be Veldora Tempest. I will be waiting for you to fulfill your promise to me, and I will be watching you in the meantime. Rimuru felt a surge of anticipation, but noticed no immediate changes to his form upon receiving his name. He simply nodded and signaled to Sage to consume the storm dragon. After a few minutes, Veldora was absorbed in one swift motion, almost as if eating a potato chip, now residing within the stomach of the predator skill. His next steps were clear. As he made his way through the cave, he consumed the various creatures he encountered, bats, snakes, lizards, and spiders, quickly becoming nothing more than a refreshment on his journey. With each creature he consumed, Rimuru gained new forms, allowing him to shapeshift and navigate the cave's terrain with increasing agility. We're off on a secret mission, a totally secret scheme we'll slyly do in your next of kin, and quietly make him scream, Rimuru sang aloud, a newfound ability provided by the vocal cords of his new forms. Meanwhile, the great sage worked diligently to adapt the ultrasonic wave skill he acquired from the bat into a new form of communication. He was surprisingly at ease with the swift and deadly efficiency of his actions, a calmness he credited to the great sage. The skill allowed him to process information and adapt to his new life with astonishing ease, an asset he knew would prove invaluable in the future. Yet, he would dial back the intensity of this skill once he had settled down. He didn't want to be a weirdo who was fine with everything all the time. Finally reaching the cave exit, Rimuru transformed his body into a flat, pancake-like form and slipped through the small gap beneath the door. He didn't have time to wait until someone came around and opened the door. Stepping out into the world, Rimuru couldn't resist the urge to mimic taking a deep breath, savoring the freedom and the myriad possibilities that lay before him as he surveyed the vast landscape. "Sage, do you sense any goblins around here?" he asked, hoping to encounter some local monsters to kickstart his new life. "Negative. However, I do detect the presence of some dire wolves near you. Do you wish me to point their location to you?" Aye. Rimuru responded with a hint of excitement. "I will only show them when relevant, but since it is the first chapter, here it goes. Race, slime. Protection, crest of the storm. Intrinsic skills, absorb, self-regeneration, dissolve. Unique skills, great sage, predator. Extra skills, magic sense, control water, poisonous breath, sense heat source, paralyzing breath, sticky thread, steel thread, drain, ultrasonic wave body armor. Tolerance, resist pain, resist electricity, resist temperature, resist melee attack, resist paralysis. A/N. I'm always open to feedback and suggestions, so feel free to drop them if you have any. However, do understand that it is up to my discretion which suggestions to take. You can read the reason for Rewrite Chap for more info. Also, I have read the light novel up to volume 16, and I am currently rereading it up to the latest, so we'll have content from that. This is not an anime-only story. Chapter 2, The Wolves and the Goblins. Rimuru had a clear plan inspired by the original Rimuru, aka Orim. Orim had the right idea when he created a monster kingdom. It would be very useful to have his own place to rule. It would be a massive hassle to do things the other ways Sage suggested. So Rimuru would put in some effort to kickstart his own town. And then once the wheels got rolling, he could pass off most of the work to his subordinates. I mean, delegating was the most important part of being a boss, right? Following Orim's steps, Rimuru decided to ally with creatures of the forest, starting with goblins and wolves. The order of recruitment didn't matter as much as the approach. As he navigated the dense forest, Rimuru asked the great sage to conceal his magicules. "We don't want them running before we even chat, right?" he mused. His plan was simple: challenge the alpha, demonstrate his strength, and secure the allegiance of the pack through a show of power. Upon finding the wolves feasting on a carcass, preparing for their next hunt, Rimuru made his approach. "Excuse me, my fine fellows. I come to you with a challenge," he announced, stepping into the clearing with what would be a confident smile if he had a face. The wolves tensed, their growls low and threatening. Rimuru continued, undeterred by their hostility. "I wish to fight your boss. Whoever wins leads the pack. And if I win, I'll grant names to all of you." "How does that sound?" he proposed, gauging their reactions. A large, formidable wolf stepped forward, locking eyes with Rimuru. The pack's growling intensified, but Rimuru took their stance as an unspoken agreement. "I'll take that as a yes. 3, 2, 1, and..." Without waiting for a formal response, Rimuru unleashed a concentrated blast of water directly at the alpha wolf's head. The stream was sharp and swift, piercing through the air and striking the wolf with lethal precision. "You're dead, bummer." As the pack froze, stunned by the swift defeat of their leader, Rimuru quickly utilized his predator skill, consuming the alpha wolf in an instant. Analysis complete. Mimic, direwolf ability obtained. Direwolf intrinsic skills: keen smell, thought communication, and coercion acquired. The rest of the wolves, now leaderless and witnessing the power of their new potential leader, hesitated, their growls subsiding as they assessed Rimuru, who now possessed not only the form, but also the intrinsic abilities of their former leader. He slammed a massive paw against the ground, a deliberate show of power. Magicules shimmered in the air, carrying his will, as he activated the thought communication skill along with a subtle hint of coercion. "I am now your new leader. Do you have any objections?" Rimuru's voice echoed in their minds, the tone friendly yet underlined with an unspoken authority. The wolves exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of fear and awe. They had never experienced such a direct and potent assertion of dominance. Slowly, influenced by the compelling force of Rimuru's presence, they began to bow one by one, accepting their new leader with a blend of respect and necessity. "Good," Rimuru muttered, satisfied with their submission. He shifted back into his slime form, the transformation drawing curious looks from the pack. "I will give you all names once we are done with our next mission. I wouldn't want all of you to take a nap in the middle of nowhere, right?" A wolf that looked like the alpha, hesitant yet driven by newfound loyalty, stepped forward. "Boss, what are your orders?" His voice trembled slightly, still unsettled by the swift change in leadership. "Don't worry, pup, I don't bite," Rimuru joked, lightening the mood as he hopped onto the wolf's back, an act that surprised but didn't alarm the wolf. "Let's go find us some goblins." The pack rallied around Rimuru, their initial hesitation replaced by a growing eagerness to follow the commands of a leader who promised not just strength, but also a sense of unity and purpose. As they set off through the forest, the air was filled with a new energy, a pack reborn under the guidance of Rimuru, now ready to expand their horizons beyond the familiar woods. As the wolf pack navigated the dense forest under Rimuru's new leadership, they shared their dire situation. With the orcs' increased activity, food sources had dwindled, pushing the wolves to venture deeper into the forest. The disappearance of Veldora's intimidating magicules had also lifted their fear, making the deeper parts of the forest accessible to them. Rimuru took all the information in, nodding his slime body sagely as they moved. Though he had already known the information, it was good to get a first-hand source. Eventually, they arrived at a small, dilapidated town. The makeshift buildings were barely standing, and the defenses looked as if a strong wind could topple them. "Boss, this is the goblin camp. Our former leader wanted us to attack it to eat the goblins. Are those your orders?" The wolf beneath Rimuru asked, its body tense for a potential assault. "Nope, I'm going to recruit them," Rimuru declared, his voice calm as he dismounted gracefully onto the soft grass. "Stay here. I'll be back in a bit." Transforming into his wolf form, Rimuru charged down the hill towards the goblin camp with startling speed. The goblins panicked at his approach, scrambling for weapons. But before they could organize a defense, Rimuru was already howling at their gates, his howl amplified by a skill he had acquired from one of the vampire bats, combined with a potent release of his magicules. "Awugaguga!" The howl reverberated through the camp, stunning the goblins into submission. The sheer force of his presence made it clear they were no match for him. "Howdy," Rimuru greeted them casually, his voice echoing around the now-silent village. "I have been sent here by the Storm Dragon with one mission: to unite the monsters of his great forest under my name." The goblins exchanged bewildered looks, their initial fear giving way to cautious curiosity. It was the village elder who stepped forward first, dropping to his knees with a mixture of reverence and fear. "If you are here on behalf of the great Storm Dragon, we humble goblins will not fight you. Please have mercy on us. Goblins and wolves in the span of one day. Pretty good for a baby slime, isn't it, Sage?" Rimuru mused in his head, gazing down at the goblins who knelt before him in a mixture of awe and expectation. "Must be some sort of world record." "Affirmative. The speed of subjugation is according to my estimations." The calm voice of Sage echoed in his head, which almost made Rimuru roll his eyes. "All right, now let's address the state of this village. It's a mess. But before we tackle that, let's handle something more important: naming you all. This will make coordinating our efforts much easier," Rimuru announced, reverting to his slime form as he beckoned the wolves to join the gathering, easing the tension. "Names?" The goblins whispered among themselves, their voices tinged with surprise and rising excitement. The eldest goblin stepped forward, his voice carrying a note of reverence. "It is our honor to receive a name from you, our leader sent by the Storm Dragon." "You can just call me Rimuru," he interjected, wanting to keep things simple. "I see, Lord Rimuru. It is our honor," the elder corrected, bowing deeply. The initial fear the goblins felt towards the wolves quickly dissolved as they saw the creatures peacefully coexist under Rimuru's command. The atmosphere turned festive as they prepared for the naming ceremony, their excitement palpable. A name was not just a label, but a gift of identity and purpose for a monster. It was a rare and precious offering, costing a significant amount of magicules, and thus it was bestowed only by those who truly cared for their well-being. For a monster, receiving a name was a transformative event, and those who named them earned an eternal place in their hearts. Recognizing the gravity of the moment, Rimuru took his role seriously. Gobone, Gobtuo, Gobter, Gobfer, Gobfiv, Gobsi, Gobsev, Gobii, Gobni, Gobtin. He methodically named each goblin, making sure each name was unique and meaningful. Special names were reserved for those who stood out: Gugu, Gaga, Gaspacho, Gotaro, Gio. As Rimuru bestowed names upon them, the goblins' eyes sparkled with tears of joy and gratitude. They had been simple creatures barely surviving each day, and now they were named beings with a leader who believed in their potential. A leader who was carefully choosing each of their names, focusing deeply as to be honest, Rimuru's mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the things to come. He was thinking about the days ahead. According to the great sage's calculations, he had roughly a month before the ogre village met its demise. Only a handful of ogres had survived in the original, each becoming formidable in their own right. By rescuing more of them now, Rimuru hoped to bolster his ranks with powerful allies for future challenges. Like he had thought before, his goal was simple: delegate. Why tackle every issue personally when he could dispatch capable ogres instead? Besides, There was no denying the allure of the ogre's potential evolution into the majestic Kijin. Or to be more specific, the Kijin women. I mean, who can blame me? Rimuru mused to himself. As a former human now reincarnated as a slime, he still held on to some human inclinations, which he discussed with the great sage. Despite the sage considering certain human features unnecessary, Rimuru had insisted on a complete transformation, unnecessary parts included. Shaking his head to focus again, he continued thinking about his other problem. If events unfolded as he anticipated, she would soon arrive with adventurers, only to succumb to her fiery fate as Ifrit. It was a grim outcome Rimuru was determined to avoid for totally noble reasons. Warning: the threshold of magicules set has been reached. In the midst of these reflections, Rimuru stoked the ongoing naming ceremony as a goblin stepped forward eagerly. Raising his hand, he announced, "This is my limit for today. I will continue the naming ceremony tomorrow." The goblin's face fell slightly, but he nodded in understanding, respecting Rimuru's decision. Rimuru jumped down from his perch and called everyone to gather around. "Hello, ladies and gentlemen, wolves and pups," he began, capturing the attention of his diverse audience. "As some of you might recall, my plan is to unify all monsters of this great forest. Hence, I have one rule: don't fight amongst yourselves. As long as you have been named by me, there should be no conflicts between you, regardless of your past fights. Remember, our mission is to unify the forest and create a peaceful community." The goblins and wolves all listened intently, their expressions a mix of determination and curiosity as they glanced at each other. "Good, I better not hear about any fights. From now on, we work as a team. Understood?" He finished, his voice becoming serious near the end, underscoring the importance of unity and cooperation among them. "Great. Now, who in here knows where the ogre village is?" he asked, scanning the crowd for any sign of recognition or knowledge. After a brief moment of silence, an older wolf with graying hair and a notably keen gaze stepped forward, Sir Barksalot. In theory, he only needed to name the alpha, Ranga, for the entire pack to evolve, but he wanted to name the rest because it would also make them stronger. The result was a lot of weirdly named wolves, courtesy of his imagination. "I know the way, Lord," he said confidently. "It's deep in the northern forest, past the river that splits the White Woods." "Excellent," Rimuru responded, his voice laced with approval. "We'll need a small group to come with me. It's crucial that we approach the ogres diplomatically and offer our support. They must see us as allies, not threats. Otherwise, things will become too much of a hassle." With his mission to the ogre village planned, Rimuru turned his attention to the immediate needs of the goblin camp. The settlement, with its makeshift buildings and shabby defenses, required significant improvement. Standing before the gathered goblins, Rimuru began to outline his plans for the reconstruction of their homes and the efficient gathering of resources. "Everyone listen up," Rimuru started, ensuring he had the full attention of the goblins and wolves alike. "We have a lot of work to do here to make sure this place can truly be called a home. But don't worry, I've got a plan that'll make us the envy of the forest." Rimuru paused for a moment, then continued. "First things first, we need to rebuild your houses. They need to be sturdy and comfortable. Initiating calculation. Optimizing resource allocation and structural design using relative knowledge from previous life." The mechanical voice of Great Sage resonated within Rimuru's mind, processing the data with precision. Error. The current subjects lack the skills necessary to begin implementing the infrastructure plans. Processing. Creating alternative instructions. Process complete. Instructions have been simplified. Generating names for instructions based on books from memory. Success. How to build a city for dummies has been created. Generating plans for gathering resources. Success. Basic instructions were generated. Request. Consume trees to process the raw materials into paper. Using information found in database from memories to create the process. And they said I was wasting my life by listening to random YouTube videos. Rimuru laughed as he heard Sage's voice begin to prepare everything for him. Truly, the way of a leader was to delegate. Chapter 3: The Ogres. The following skills have been received: Black Lightning and Shadow Step. Mimicry Direwolf has evolved into Mimicry Tempest Star Wolf. Mimicry Goblin and Mimicry Hobgoblin have been acquired. As dawn broke over the newly bustling village, a remarkable transformation unfolded among those Rimuru had named. The wolves, already formidable creatures, grew larger, their once brown fur turning into pure black, their forms now embodying the fierce grace of the newly evolved Tempest wolves. The goblins experienced their own changes. The males developed into chiseled figures of strength, while the women gained curves that spoke of newfound beauty and power. That was with some exceptions like Gobta, Goose, or Gazpacho. It appeared their names had a bit more of an influence than he had expected, though their sacrifices would not be in vain, since he now knew he could influence their evolutions with the names he gave them. For example, Goose had grown a larger neck than usual for hobgoblins. May his sacrifice not be forgotten. After completing the naming ceremony, Rimuru set about organizing the village's reconstruction and expansion. He had synthesized paper from consumed trees and created green ink from local plants, producing a series of 4 dummies books to guide the villagers in various tasks. You'll be in charge of construction. He directed a group of hobgoblins, handing them blueprints crafted for durability and easy repair. Use the strongest wood from nearby forests and gather vegetation for thatching. Turning to another group focused on resource gathering, Rimuru instructed, "Be selective in what you collect. Gather only necessary fruits, nuts, and hunt sparingly to maintain our resources. And remember, gather seeds as well. We'll be starting farms soon. Follow the locations marked in your plans for optimal results." Rimuru's gaze swept across the eager faces before him. And let's not forget about defenses. We're not just building a camp. We're fortifying a village. I want a fence around the perimeter and traps set up at strategic points. We will make this place safe for everyone. The wolves were not overlooked. Your keen senses are crucial for patrol and security. Work in tandem with the hobgoblins to safeguard our home. Finally, addressing a select group of hobgoblins and Tempest wolves, Rimuru outlined their diplomatic mission. You will visit the surrounding villages and extend an invitation to join our community. Inform them that I, sent by Veldora the Storm Dragon, will grant them names and protection if they choose to ally with us. As Rimuru wrapped up his directives, his voice resonated with a firm, yet inspirational tone. We'll optimize every aspect of our work. Remember, this is a team effort. No infighting, just cooperation. Work together, and we'll build something great. I want to see progress when I return, and I know you won't let me down. His speech ignited a roar of excitement among the assembled hobgoblins and wolves. Shouts and howls filled the air, echoing the newfound sense of purpose they all felt. In just one day, their lives had been transformed, and they were eager to meet the expectations of their new leader. With the village buzzing with activity, Rimuru turned to his next task. He summoned Ranga, the son of the alpha wolf he had defeated, who had quickly risen to become the pack's new leader under Rimuru's leadership, and Sir Barksalot, the seasoned wolf with knowledge of the ogre territory. "Master!" Both wolves bowed respectfully as they approached. Rimuru noted with interest how Ranga had grown significantly in just a day, now sporting a horn on his head with a star-shaped pattern beneath it. "All right, pups, lead the way," Rimuru instructed, casually leaping onto Ranga's back. Though he could transform and run alongside them, the opportunity to relax and enjoy Ranga's soft fur was too tempting to pass up. Eager to impress, the wolves sprinted forward with remarkable speed. Rimuru, comfortably seated, utilized a skill he had acquired from a spider in Veldora's cave to adhere securely to Ranga's back. As they raced through the forest, the scenery blurred past them, a rush of greens and browns in a swift-moving panorama. Guided by Sir Barksalot, Rimuru relaxed, letting his mind wander to strategic thoughts. "Yo, Veldora, you don't mind if I continue to use your name in vain, right?" Rimuru mused internally, a chuckle threatening to break through his composed exterior. "If you don't mind, just don't say anything." As expected, no response came. Veldora remained bound within the unlimited imprisonment skill, and while Great Sage worked tirelessly to decipher it, Rimuru knew it would likely be a long task. Hours later, as they approached the ogre village visible in the distance, Rimuru remained in his slime form. He didn't want to take the form of a goblin or hobgoblin, a personal preference he had developed after reading some cursed stories in his past. Arriving at the robust gates of the ogre village, Rimuru and his companions were met by a burly ogre guard with dark, slightly graying hair, who stood defiantly with his katana raised. "Halt! Stop now unless you wish to be attacked by the ogre village," the ogre bellowed, his voice betraying a hint of concern over the formidable presence of the two wolves. Heeding the warning, Rimuru signaled for Ranga and Sir Barksalot to stop. As they did, tensions rose, and soon, tens of ogre guards emerged from within the village, weapons drawn and ready to defend their home. Rimuru dismounted from Ranga, gracefully shifting into the impressive form of a tempest wolf before addressing the gathered ogres. "I come here as the chosen of Veldora, the storm dragon," he declared, allowing his voice to carry across the tense air. With those words, he unleashed a massive wave of magicules, his presence commanding and undeniable. "I am a prophet, and I have seen the disaster that is approaching your village. I need to speak to your chief." His proclamation, enhanced by his ultrasonic wave skill and the skill from the alpha wolf, coercion, caused the ogre guards to reflexively lower their weapons, their expressions shifting from hostility to uncertainty. The lead guard, after a moment's hesitation, nodded slightly and called out, "Just 1 second, Sir Envoy. I will send a message as fast as I can." He quickly instructed another guard to rush the message to their chief. The air was thick with suspense as they waited. After a few tense minutes, a figure approached from the depths of the village, a medium-sized ogre with fiery red hair, red skin, and 2 prominent black horns adorning his forehead. It was none other than the ogre who would later be known as Rimuru. "Follow me. I shall take you to the chief's house," said the red ogre, his tone respectful, yet tinged with curiosity as he led the way through the village. As they walked, Rimuru shifted back into his slime form, drawing curious glances from the villagers. None spoke, their eyes conveying a mix of surprise and caution. The architecture of the village caught Rimuru's attention. The houses were modest on the outside, but inside, they revealed a rich cultural tapestry that spoke volumes about the ogre's heritage. The interiors were designed like traditional Japanese homes, simple yet elegant, a testament to the people the ogres had rescued in their distant past. Upon entering the chief's house, Rimuru was immediately struck by the traditional setup, a small tatami room with a low table set for discussions. Seated before him was the village chief, whose striking appearance was unexpected yet familiar. The village chief was a figure with long, pink hair that reminded Rimuru of Shuna. His skin was cream-colored, and his intense crimson eyes were framed by 2 black horns rising from his temples. Behind the chief stood another ogre, exuding an aura of wisdom and vigilance. This was the ogre who would become Hakuro, his white hair and wrinkled skin contrasting with the chief's vibrant appearance. His posture was that of a seasoned warrior, ready to defend his leader without hesitation. With everyone settled, Rimuru cleared his throat, a polite but unnecessary gesture, and began to speak. "Thank you for receiving us," he started, his voice calm and diplomatic. "Before we begin, could I make a request?" The chief's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of suspicion in his gaze. "What is it?" "My current shape is not the best for diplomacy. If possible, could I request an ogre come forth, so I can analyze them? It would ease our discussions." After a brief pause, the chief nodded, signaling to someone outside the room. Moments later, a tall, muscular ogre with blue hair and a prominent white horn entered. This was the ogre who would later become Sui. Rimuru extended part of his body towards Sui, wrapping around the ogre's arm and gently pinching to draw some blood. "Thank you for your cooperation," he said as he began the analysis. "Analysis complete. New mimicry form has been acquired, ogre." As Rimuru morphed into a young ogre form with light blue hair, he felt a comforting familiarity. Although his slime shape had become second nature, there was still a part of him that yearned for the humanoid form he once possessed. He looked like a young ogre no older than 10, with a cute and playful appearance. He had two small gray horns emerging from his head surrounded by light blue hair. His whole appearance put together by striking golden eyes. Settling onto the floor, Rimuru draped the pelt of the alpha wolf over his lower body, glad to see that a certain unnecessary part was present. "Bring him some clothing," the chief commanded. The blue-haired ogre nodded and left, returning moments later with a simple yet dignified robe. Once appropriately dressed, Rimuru adopted a grave expression. "As I said, I am Veldora's chosen one, a prophet who has foreseen the fall of the ogres." The chief's eyes narrowed, skepticism evident. "You claim to be Veldora's chosen, yet do you have any proof other than your strange ability to change forms?" With a calm smile, Rimuru turned his gaze to the blue-haired ogre next to him. "Your name is now Sui," he declared, then shifting his attention to the elder behind the chief. "And your name is now Hakuro." These declarations elicited shocked gasps from all present. Rimuru, unfazed, casually sipped from a teacup in front of him. "I saw an army of tens of thousands of orcs, all headed in this direction, led by an orc lord. In my vision, only 6 ogres survived. As Veldora's chosen, I, Rimuru Tempest, have been summoned to unify our great forest. I swear this on the storm dragon's name. And if I am lying, may he strike me down." The room tensed at his declaration. To swear on the name of a true dragon was a profound and dangerous oath. "For this reason, I extend an invitation. Become my subordinates and join the city I am creating. I will grant you names and safety." The village leader's expression turned grave. He gestured for Hakuro to join the discussion table as an advisor. "What do you think about this situation?" he asked. "I know our people are strong, but even if we are stronger than orcs, our village can't withstand a direct assault from more than 3,000 orcs at maximum, let alone tens of thousands led by an orc lord." After a pause, the chief reflected on the casual yet significant act of naming by Rimuru, still reeling from its implications. "My friend, Hakuro, your skill and discerning character is unparalleled. Can we trust this envoy? A decision like this cannot be taken lightly. It would mean abandoning our homes." The room fell silent, awaiting Hakuro's judgment, the weight of their collective future hanging in the balance. Hakuro's wise eyes met Rimuru's golden ones, his gaze sharp and questioning. "If we deny your invitation, what will happen then? We have been warned about the army headed our way, and we have been given names that will increase our strength. Our chances of winning are still low, but not zero." Rimuru's smile didn't waver, his eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating light. "One cannot save those who do not wish to be saved," he began, his voice smooth and untroubled. "If you choose to stand alone, then I will depart. However, I must be clear, the bloodshed that follows will be on your hands, not mine. And make no mistake, there will be blood. To be honest, he was probably going to step in and save them either way. The loss of so many potential Kijin would really be too much to throw away so simply, but he couldn't let them know that. It would become a problem if they thought they could use him for their benefit without being under his rule." His words hung in the air, heavy with the ominous promise of violence and destruction. Rimuru's demeanor remained calm and composed, but the underlying threat was palpable. He was not merely a prophet or a savior. He was an emperor in the making, and his offer was as much a warning as it was an opportunity. The ogre chieftain's brow furrowed, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Around him, the air was tense, filled with the silent fears and hopes of his people. Hakuro remained stoic, yet the slight tightening of his jaw betrayed his concern. The chief glanced back at Rimuru, then at his people, his voice resolute yet heavy with the burden of leadership. "And if we accept, what guarantee do we have that your empire will be any different from the tyranny of an orc lord?" Rimuru's answer was quick, his confidence unshaken. "You have my word as Veldora's chosen. Under my rule, you will find safety and strength in numbers. Alone, you face annihilation. With me, you gain the protection of an empire. Right now, it is your chance to join it when it has only just begun. A chance to cement yourself in its foundations." As the room fell into a tense silence, pondering the grave choices laid before them, Rimuru sensed the moment was ripe to fortify his position. I am an otherworlder, chosen specifically by Veldora, the guardian of the forest, to unite it, he declared, his voice resonating with authority and an undercurrent of power. You all know of the summoning that brings people from other worlds, right? Imagine what a person summoned by Veldora himself can become. With that, Rimuru released a visible surge of magicules, a deliberate show of strength to underline his words. The spectacle left the room quiet once more, the ogres visibly unnerved by the demonstration. The chief, caught between awe and caution, finally broke the silence. Sir Rimuru, could you give us just one night to consider? He asked, his voice betraying a mix of respect and reluctance. Of course, Rimuru answered with a friendly smile. The tension in the room lowered as Rimuru answered, causing the chief to nod. I thank you for your patience and for naming not only my servant but also my closest friend, the chief said, bowing deeply as a sign of respect. He then turned to the blue-haired ogre, signaling him to take care of their distinguished guest. Please, show him a room where he can stay. Chapter 4. The Princess. I am very intentional in not using names unless they have been given out, but that's only going to be something for the first few chaps while he still can't go on a naming spree for stronger characters. So, for example, rather than saying Shuna, I will say Princess or Pink-Haired Ogre. Upon entering his temporary home, Rimuru set about crafting a semblance of comfort amidst the foreign environment. With a practice flick, he expelled a small tub constructed of wooden boards, a creation facilitated by Great Sage's precise calculations. Next, he poured a quantity of stored water, filling the tub before reverting to his slime form and immersing himself with a content splash. Ah, Sage, what a day! Rimuru sighed, settling into the lukewarm water. His temperature-resistant skills negated the need for heating, a minor convenience that he appreciated given his current lack of fire abilities. Confirmed. The goal of recruiting the ogres has been achieved. The voice of Great Sage echoed in his mind, precise and devoid of emotion. You know, Sage, you don't have to be so cold all the time. Relax a little, Rimuru chuckled, his voice echoing with a hint of playfulness as he swirled leisurely in the tub. Understood. Despite the attempt at lightening the mood, Sage's tone remained unchanged. Just you and I, Sage. We have a lot of work in the future, but once we get the wheels rolling, we should be able to lay back and watch it all play out smoothly, right? Rimuru mused aloud, already dreaming of a leisurely reign in which he got to spend his time with some girls. Negative. Sage began, then paused, as if recalibrating its response. No, it corrected itself, adding, from the information gathered in your memories, there is still a lot of progress to be made. Rimuru's gelatinous form slowed slightly in the water. The reality of Sage's words settled over him, a reminder that his aspirations for a calm rule would require more groundwork and strategy than perhaps he had hoped. Right then, Rimuru acknowledged, mixing resignation with renewed determination in his tone. Since it looks like things are going to be quite busy soon, I might as well enjoy today. With a fluid motion, he leapt from the tub, landing firmly on the ground in his ogre form. Running a hand along the spiky tips of his horns, he chuckled. Not gonna lie, I kind of like the horns. He caught his reflection in a nearby mirror, giving his appearance a critical once-over. With a joking smirk, he said, at this rate, I'm going to have all the ogre girls on an FBI watch list. Attempting to transform into an older, more mature version of the ogre around their early 20s, Rimuru felt his magicules straining to accommodate the change. The reflection that stared back at him was that of a ruggedly handsome ogre with darker skin and a fierce demeanor, well-defined muscles, and small fangs protruding slightly from his mouth. The resemblance to Sui was unmistakable, given that he had used his DNA as a basis for the transformation. Well, I'll have to wait until tomorrow to use the better-looking Kijin, Rimuru muttered to himself, shrugging off the slight inconvenience as he selected a larger robe from the assortment provided in the house before stepping out. The village at night was quiet, shrouded in shadows that stretched long across the dirt paths. Rimuru walked with an unhurried pace, his new form drawing curious glances from the ogres he passed. Though his face was unfamiliar, his ogre appearance helped lower any initial suspicions, allowing him to observe the villagers without attracting too much attention. As he wandered, Rimuru eventually came upon an ogre with striking pink hair, the future Shuna. She sat alone under the soft glow of a lantern, her focus entirely on the spells she attempted to cast. Two pure white horns curved gracefully from her head, and crimson marks like teardrops adorned her cheeks, adding to her distinct appearance. Dressed in a white and red kimono, she seemed a blend of concentration and solitude, her efforts at magic continuously failing to produce the desired electric skill. Alert! The use of magic has been detected. Would you like to analyze the spell? Sage's clinical voice interrupted his observations. Rimuru responded quietly, his interest piqued as he started approaching her. Analysis complete. Illusory thunder has been replicated, adding this skill to the magic reservoir. Sage continued analysis. The structure of illusory thunder has been successfully deconstructed. New magic, illusion has been created. New magic, illusory fire has been created. New magic, illusory ice has been created. Process complete. Ogre's elemental illusion magic has been acquired. Approaching her with a friendly smile, Rimuru greeted her. Hello there. Shuna, startled by the unexpected presence, jumped back slightly, her eyes wide as she took in the unfamiliar ogre. Hello. Her voice wavered a bit, mingling curiosity with caution. Are you new here? Rimuru's smile widened slightly as he heard her. Yes, I've just arrived. I couldn't help but notice your practice. You have quite the talent for magic, Rimuru complimented, taking a seat beside Shuna, whose initial wariness shifted into a curious and slightly amused expression. I was just experimenting a bit. I am good at using my family's illusory skills and fire, but anything beyond that isn't as easy, Shuna admitted, a touch of humility in her voice. Do you want me to teach you how? It just so happens that I am something of an expert myself, Rimuru offered casually, settling comfortably next to her. His relaxed demeanor seemed to put her at ease. You really aren't from around here, she giggled, clearly enjoying the break from the usual reverence she received as the chief's daughter. The other people usually don't speak to me so casually, but it's nice. You said you could teach me about magic? Sage. Rimuru silently called upon his aide. Generating information. Generation complete. The knowledge, how to use illusory ogre magic for dummies, has been completed. Transferring information. Transfer complete. Holding back the urge to chuckle slightly at Sage's unconventional naming scheme, he simply gave the skill a mental thanks before clearing his throat. Well, you see, it's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is... As he explained, he watched Shuna's expression transform from casual interest to intense focus, her eyes alight with the thrill of learning. She absorbed every word, her earlier attempts at magic now evolving into more controlled, beautiful displays of illusory lightning forming at her fingertips. This is amazing, Shuna breathed out, her voice filled with wonder. I had never seen my family's magic like this. To see someone using illusory elements like you do, how? I can't tell you all my secrets yet. Now can I? Then what will we have to talk about next time? Rimuru teased with a playful wink, enjoying the light blush that colored her cheeks. Just as Rimuru was about to suggest another spell, he sensed another presence approaching. Turning toward the newcomer, he saw an ogre approaching with respectful haste, bowing slightly as he reached them. Lord Rimuru, Princess, I have been sent to bring you to your father. He wishes to speak with you. If you don't mind, Lord Rimuru, I will take the princess now. The ogre's tone made it clear that there was no room for debate, at least for the pink-haired ogre, signaling the urgency of the matter. Lord Rimuru, you have a name? The pink-haired asked with a mixture of surprise and curiosity as she stood, ready to leave. Ah, there goes one of my secrets, Rimuru responded with a nonchalant grin, watching her reaction with amusement. Go on then, princess. I'm sure we'll see each other again tomorrow. Rimuru finished, giving her a charming smile. He would give her a name right here and now to watch her shocked expression, but he wanted to wait until he had analyzed Shizu. Sui's main skills were threads and shadow movement. Though he couldn't multiply yet, he was sure it could be taught/obtained later. As for Hakuro, he mainly needed a strengthened body to utilize his skills fully. If memory served him right, he obtained a downgraded sage that boosted his mind. Those were the main reasons he was so casual about naming them. Once the princess was out of sight, Rimuru returned to his temporary residence, shifting back into his comfortable slime form as he eased into a tub. The solitude allowed him to reflect on the day's events. Well, that was nice, wasn't it, Sage? I finally got to hang out with a cute girl. I have nothing against the goblinas, but will you get me, Sage? It's a nice break before I have to deal with the whole moving thing tomorrow. Acknowledged. Adding this information to the database. Sage's voice echoed in his mind, its usual monotone breaking slightly, perhaps in response to Rimuru's casual tone. Processing. Processing complete. Would you like to hear good news now, or would you prefer to be surprised tomorrow? Rimuru paused, considering the implications of both choices. After a brief moment, curiosity won out. What is it? The pink-haired ogre is about to be offered to you as a wife. As the two ogres arrived at the chieftain's residence, the escorting ogre took up a protective stance next to the door, allowing the pink-haired princess to enter first. The somber mood of the room was palpable as she stepped inside, her father's grave expression greeting her. Her brother stood to his left, his stance rigid and serious, while her uncle sat to the right, equally stern. "Daughter, there is something you must know," her father began, his voice heavy with importance. "Our village has received an offer to join the chosen prophet of the storm dragon, Veldora." The weight of his words visibly shook the princess, her eyes widening as she absorbed the sudden news. She had been busy when Rimuru arrived, so she hadn't heard any of the news until now. As she processed the information, she nodded. That explains why Rimuru could wield our ogre magic so adeptly. He is Veldora's chosen prophet, she said, piecing together her earlier interaction with him, a hint of admiration in her voice. "He was so kind to me, even from such a position of power," she added, a gentle smile crossing her lips as she reminisced. "That is not all," her father continued, drawing her attention back to the urgency of the moment. "He has named your uncle and one of our guards, Hakuro and Sui. He has promised to bestow names upon all our people." Her smile broadened at the prospect, the room momentarily brightened by her enthusiasm until her father's solemn tone reclaimed the somber atmosphere. "There's more, isn't there?" she inquired, sensing the gravity behind his pause. "Yes. Our village faces imminent destruction. Veldora's prophet has foreseen it. But within this dire prophecy, he offers us a new hope." Her father laid out Rimuru's vision for their future within his burgeoning empire, detailing the safety and prosperity it promised. Overwhelmed by the cascade of revelations, the princess listened intently, her excitement mingling with a sense of duty. "That's incredible," she whispered, her eyes alight with possibilities. "It's for this reason," her father continued, his voice laden with a mix of reluctance and resolve. "I must ask you something significant. I promised your mother I would never force you into marriage, but for the survival of our people, I must consider all options, so I will now ask you. My dear daughter, would you consider marrying Lord Rimuru?" "Huh?" The princess's voice was tinged with shock, her eyes widening as the full weight of her father's words settled upon her. "In order to truly unite our two communities," her father continued, his voice firm, yet carrying a trace of empathy for the burden he placed upon her, "I want to extend this offer to him. Hakuro has assessed his character. While Lord Rimuru's intentions were not completely transparent, Hakuro assures us he possesses the capability to save our village. Given his status, it is to be expected that he will receive similar offers from other races. Thus, you won't be his only wife, but you will indeed be his first." Her mind raced, replaying their brief interactions. His charming smile, the easy confidence as he taught her magic, his playful winks that had caught her off guard. It was all overwhelming, yet there was a part of her that felt drawn to the mysterious Rimuru. After a moment of introspective silence, she looked up, her expression resolute. "I will offer myself to Lord Rimuru. If he accepts me, I will do my best to be the best wife I can," she declared, bowing her head in a show of respect and acceptance. Inside, she wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. The hours spent under Rimuru's tutelage had subtly shifted her perceptions of him. His charm and knowledge had indeed made an impression. Despite the suddenness of the proposal, she found herself curious and somewhat hopeful about what her future with him might bring. Chapter 6. The Journey to Dwargen. As the sun crept over the windows, Rimuru laid in the silence of their room, feeling the warmth as Shuna nestled against him. Though they needed to prepare for their journey to the new village, he found himself happy to remain still, her steady breathing giving him a strange sense of happiness. Sage, this is the life, Rimuru mused internally, a light chuckle escaping him as he felt her shift closer in her sleep. Acknowledged. Gathering information. Is this the path you wish to continue? Sage's voice resounded, almost as if seeking guidance for its next steps. Yes, Rimuru affirmed silently. If life could always be this serene, balance between ambition and personal satisfaction, he would indeed be happy. That simple acknowledgement seemed to activate a deeper analysis within Sage. Understood. Adjusting parameters to better fit your vision. Processing. Processing complete. Passing forward request. The request has been rejected. Analyzing reason for rejection. Analysis complete. Sending revised request. As the mechanical updates from Sage filtered through his consciousness, Rimuru's relaxation was briefly interrupted by an unexpected announcement. Unique skill. Eros has been acquired. Request completed. Analyzing skill. Skill analyzed. Eros is based on the sin of lust. Its abilities include Invigorate. Allows the user to enhance a target's vitality with lust energy, which strengthens both body and soul. The intensity of the invigoration increases with the intimacy of the contact. Lustful Drain. Enables the user to drain energy and vitality through physical contact, targeting the soul directly. The intensity of the drain increases with the intimacy of the contact. Hearing the notification in his mind, Rimuru couldn't help but burst out laughing. Sage, what would I do without you? Rimuru mused, half joking but secretly appreciating the invaluable assistance Sage provided. The skill, however, did not respond as it busied itself with recalculating strategies and scenarios at an increased pace. After all of the ogres had finished their preparations, Rimuru went around the village and consumed everything. Houses, farms, even small fixtures. Nothing was spared as everything was swept into his stomach. The process was both awe-inspiring and unsettling, as the massive ogre village disappeared within minutes, leaving behind only the land as if the village had never existed. With their entire lives now carried within Rimuru, the ogres, led by Sir Barksalot, set off on their week-long journey to their new home. Meanwhile, Rimuru and his new wife mounted Ranga, preparing for a much faster return. Rimuru had a mental countdown running, aware of the limited time before the Conqueror of Flame's arrival. Every moment was precious, and he couldn't waste a week for no reason walking back with the rest of the group. Let's hurry, Ranga, Rimuru instructed, feeling his wife tighten her grip around him as Ranga accelerated. The landscape blurred around them, their speed a stark contrast to the leisurely pace of the rest of the ogres. Even with Sage's analysis and her For Dummies series of building books, they were going to need more experts. Sage could only generate books with the random information he had gathered in his past life, so he at least needed to arrive at a library before he would be able to create a For Dummies enhanced edition. For that reason, his current plan was to head to the Dwarven country and snatch himself up a couple of workers. His plan was clear. Travel to the Dwarven country on Ranga, which would cut down a 2-month walking journey to just 3 days. Allowing a couple of days for recruitment, he anticipated being back well before Shizu's arrival, giving him time to prepare. Correct. The plan for the recruitment of dwarf workers has been completed. The timeline for your return has been set, Sage confirmed, its voice a constant presence in his mind. With Sage's affirmation, Rimuru nudged Ranga to push even faster, a gesture that made his wife cling even closer. Her initial apprehension gave way to a sense of exhilaration, shared through the thrill of their rapid movement across the landscape. As Rimuru and his new wife arrived back at their village, They were greeted by a sight of bustling activity and rapid construction. Temporary houses, neatly arranged into organized rows, filled the landscape. Each structure was a testament to the diligence and obedience of his followers, executed with surprising efficiency. To Rimuru's satisfaction, the transformation of the village was largely attributable to the leadership of Rigurd, the goblin leader he had named. The old man was lucky that Rimuru could recognize him and give him a name that stood out from the rest, but he had earned it. This old goblin had not only taken the name, but had risen to the challenge, his newfound status empowering him to lead with unprecedented vigor. Approaching Rigurd, who was overseeing the final touches on a new structure, Rimuru allowed a small nod of approval to escape him. "Rigurd, your work has exceeded my expectations," he commented, his voice carrying a firm edge of approval. Rigurd, puffing his chest out with pride, bowed deeply before Rimuru. "Lord Rimuru, it is all thanks to the books you bestowed upon us. I strive to meet your expectations and lead our people as you would. I also have good news. The envoys we sent to the other goblin camps have succeeded, and we expect around 900 more goblins to arrive by tomorrow." As they walked through the bustling village, Rimuru discussed his next strategic moves with Rigurd and his wife. He outlined a plan to recruit expert workers from the dwarven country, emphasizing how these new skills would enhance their community's capabilities. "The infrastructure is our first priority," Rimuru explained. "Once we have a solid foundation, we can expand without the need for constant alterations. Although Sage and Predator could adjust any issues, I prefer that we build correctly the first time to avoid setting a precedent of dependence on my powers for every problem." Turning to his wife, Rimuru spoke of the integration of the ogres. "The ogres have advanced skills in construction and crafting, superior to what the goblins initially had. It's crucial that we utilize this expertise, particularly in creating clothing and other necessities." He noted a growing issue among the hobgoblins whose rudimentary outfits were becoming a distraction. The hobgoblins kept getting distracted by every passing goblina, impeding the community's productivity. Without delay, Rimuru orchestrated the week's agenda. As new packs of goblins arrived, he initiated a naming spree, which not only boosted morale, but also organized the newcomers into work-ready groups. Names flew from his tongue with a mix of whimsy and authority. Goblet, Gobble, Gobzilla, Gobsmacked, Gobfather, Gobmother, Goblin, Gobananas, Glizzard, Gibble, Goober, Sir Gobsalot, Gobnado, Glizzy, Glarkater. Truly, he was an artisan when it came to names. Or at least that's what he told himself, since the goblins held back tears of joy as they received the names, bowing deeply to him. In all honesty, it felt a little bad to give them names like that, but when you are naming hundreds of goblins, you gotta have fun with at least a few of them. After reaching his naming threshold, Rimuru paused, planning to continue after his return from Dworgen. He then proceeded to relocate the ogre village using his predator ability, depositing it onto a site selected by Sage. This strategic placement allowed the ogres to utilize their original homes, while the new village evolved into a fully functioning city. With all preliminary tasks checked off, Rimuru was now set to embark on his next major undertaking, the journey to the Dwarven Kingdom. Standing at the outskirts of the village, he called out for his pup, "Ranga!" The call pierced the quiet morning, resonating across the open space. Moments later, a swirling shadow coalesced, and from it emerged Ranga, vibrant and eager. "Master, I am ready to serve." Ranga approached, his tail wagging vigorously, a clear display of his enthusiasm. Rimuru couldn't resist a smile at such loyalty, so he reached out to affectionately pat Ranga's head. "We have a journey ahead of us to Dworgen. It's time to gather some more allies. Call for another 2 of your packs to follow us. We need them to carry the dwarves back." Rimuru then mounted Ranga, shifting effortlessly into his slime form as 2 additional wolf shadows merged into Ranga's form, prepared for the task ahead. As they set off, the surrounding landscape began to blur with their swift movement, Ranga's incredible speed effortlessly eating up the distance. "Pup, how are you enjoying your new life?" Rimuru asked, settling comfortably on Ranga's fur. Ranga's ears perked up, and he responded enthusiastically, his voice resonating within Rimuru's mind. Master, it is more than I could have ever hoped for. My name means so much to me. Serving you makes me feel strong, respected, and part of something greater. I am eager to see what challenges lie ahead. Rimuru chuckled softly, pleased by the genuine happiness in Ranga's voice. Good boy, he praised, drawing out an even faster pace from the excited wolf as they continued their journey toward Dworgen. After a relentless journey, Ranga's exceptional pace cut the anticipated 3-day trip to Dworgen down to just 2 days, providing Rimuru with an unexpected but welcome extra day in the city. Though if he was being honest, he would prefer to spend the least amount of time possible in order to avoid bringing attention to himself. He didn't want to accidentally cause a mess and then be late for his meeting with the walking bomb that was Shizu. Dworgen was a formidable city carved into a mountain, bustling with activity. Its main gate, a massive structure, was usually closed except in emergencies, funneling most traffic through smaller gates where long lines of people and creatures awaited entry. The guards stationed there wore impressively ornate armor, underscoring the city's wealth and order. There were a few other entrances, but they were reserved for nobility, which meant Rimuru would have to wait in line like the rest of the regular people. As he saw the lines of people in the distance, he jumped off Ranga and called him to enter his shadow along with the other 2 wolves. Taking his Kijin form, he chose to remain in his child form. If it came to it, looking like a cute kid would probably get people to side with him rather than whoever was harassing him. Yet as he looked at the line, he saw a kobold caravan near the front of the line, with one red-haired hobgoblin guarding the group. Well, I do look like an innocent kid right now. What do you think, Sage? The likelihood of your plan succeeding without drawbacks is 99.384678923%. Pleased with the assessment, Rimuru chuckled inwardly and used his shadow movement skill to bypass the long queue, emerging discreetly among a kobold caravan near the front. Stepping out quietly from one of the caravans, he approached a kobold who appeared to be in charge. With his most convincing wide-eyed, innocent expression, he pleaded with him. I'm sorry, sir. I got separated from my family. Is there a way I could go in with you? I'm a little scared with all the humans around here." The kobold, a humanoid dog, looked down in surprise at the sudden appearance of a child. His initial shock softened into a more paternal demeanor, though when he reached out to ruffle Rimuru's hair, his quick dodge led to an awkward chuckle from both. "You lost your parents, kid?" The kobold responded, his tone now gentle. "Sure, you can join us. Take a seat. I'll handle your entrance ticket." "Thank you so much, mister." "I owe you one," Rimuru replied, nodding eagerly as he nestled into the caravan, perfectly playing the part of the grateful child.